Cool. So welcome. So the first part is just letting you all know that you are warmly welcome to this session. There is no commitment that you need to make once you are joining this. This is just an easygoing evening where we will answer questions, and then you can decide for yourself if it is something that you are more interested in, and then we will help you out to figure out how to join. And then the last 15 minutes, as said, is going to be for your questions. And the topics today are finding possibly a hobby for your child here in Finland, or also joining as an adult as a volunteer. So these are the topics. And the most frequently asked questions that we get from people who don't necessarily speak Finnish or Swedish yet, the local languages in Finland, is regarding language, background, religion, activities, age, costs, ideals, and then, of course, how to join. So these are the questions we will be covering at least, and then we'll see if you have some more afterwards. So guiding and scouting in a nutshell, this is a little bit more text on this slide. The rest of them will be a little bit less. But basically to give you an idea, what are we talking about today? Guiding and Scouting is the world's largest youth movement, and Scouting works actively to improve young people's living conditions and opportunities to influence. And there are about 45 million guides and scouts in over 200 countries, all united by the common values of the movement. And the Guide and Scout movement is organized as international and national associations. So there are two world organizations, WOSM and WAGS, as we call them, and the Guides and Scouts of Finland are members of both. And then the Guides and Scouts of Finland is also the biggest youth organization in Finland with 65,000 members. And there are around 700 local troops, which we call lippukunta. And if you're wondering what does a local troop actually mean, it's basically the same as if you would have football teams. So one troop or football clubs. Football club would be a local troop, and then it can have smaller groups inside, which would be the teams for particular age groups, for example. And around 5,000 groups meet weekly, and out of those 65,000 members, actually more than 20,000 adults are part of this movement. So what adults usually do, they are volunteers and they enable the hobby for the kids and the young people. And now we will jump to the frequently asked questions about guiding and scouting in Finland. So probably the most frequently asked question is, can I join if I don't speak Finnish? Well, yes, you can. But be aware that most of the guiding and scouting activities are currently organized in Finnish or Swedish, the national languages of Finland. But there are also some local groups who cater for those adults who speak English or other languages. And each local troop differ from each other, but by asking around, you can find a suitable place for yourself. So we cannot guarantee that there will be activities and everything organized for you in any other language than Finnish or Swedish, but you can always ask and find out. So it does require a bit of effort from your side, and hopefully if you are planning on staying in Finland for a bit longer, maybe you also have the motivation to learn the language. And in that case, this hobby or this volunteering is actually an excellent way of integrating into the Finnish culture and learning the language while having fun. So one popular option for adults is to act as a group leader and doing it together with another leader who speaks Finnish and probably has been in guiding and scouting for a bit longer. So you can help out and then you still have somebody who speaks the language. And usually the kids are quite happy to meet new cultures and also learn new languages. And they are really forgiving when it comes to not remembering always all correct answers, for example. And of course, having a positive attitude and learning by failing, and also using maybe Google Translate, for example, does help quite a lot. So then another question is, of course, can my children join if we don't speak Finnish? For example, the parents might not speak Finnish, or the kids might not speak Finnish yet either. And for this one, the answer is yes, they possibly can. Because this hobby is a great way for the kids to learn the language and integrate into your new local culture while having fun. But of course, having the motivation to learn the language definitely helps a lot. And then again, we cannot guarantee that each and every of those 700 local groups do speak English, because everything in the weekly operations and the camps as well is operated by volunteers. Most of Finnish people do speak pretty good English, but there might be some differences locally as well. So yeah, so it is possible to join even if the kids don't speak Finnish yet, but they will most likely learn by just doing and by following the example of their peers, the other kids as well. And then, of course, some people also ask, can my children join if we don't speak English? So no Finnish, no Swedish, and no English. Yes, there is always a chance to join as well. But as said, it also depends on the local troop. So hopefully having somebody who can translate for you when you communicate with the local troop, that would probably help. So you can always discuss with the local group leaders how their operations are organized and if people can join without a common language yet. And you might be surprised that occasionally there are also other members who have similar backgrounds or common language skills. So you might not be the first one who doesn't speak Finnish or English. And this is probably something that maybe you will be telling for your friends or people you know, since if you don't speak English, then you probably don't understand what I'm talking about here right now. But you can spread the word that we are really accepting, and we would like to invite more and more people with different versatile backgrounds, even without the Finnish language yet, to join us, because the more, the merrier. So yeah, it may require a bit of extra effort, that is to be known, but definitely worth asking. And that being said, just want to remind you about the essence of guiding and scouting, because that is in engaging in a diverse assortment of activities together with others and interacting with a wide variety of people. And therefore, also quite often typically asked questions is, can I join regardless of my religion? There are occasionally some rumors that only people with certain kind of religion can join, and there's a lot of religious things related to scouting. But the actual answer is yes, you can. It doesn't matter which religion you represent, or even if you are atheist, that doesn't stop you from joining this movement. So basically, anyone can join regardless of their ethnic or cultural background, language, religion, or belief, physical capability, gender identity, gender representation, or sexual orientation. Everybody is welcome. And the movement is independent religiously and party politically, non-aligned, as well as a non-profit organization. So each individual member is free to practice his or her own religion. And more information about the values and ideals can be found online as well. And I will paste the link in the chat box as well in case somebody wants to take a closer look at those at any point. But please also note that different local troops in different cities and in different municipalities do have different supporting organizations and also different traditions. It is not like one shoe fits all kind of thing, but different local troops definitely have their own ways of doing things. And also it's good to notice that many local troops have the Evangelical Lutheran Church as their supporting community. And this is usually not seen in the activities, or if some of the activities do include some relation to church, then also non-religious options are offered and can be asked for as well. But some of those local troops may have their meeting locales provided by the congregation. So it might be in the same building as the church, for example. So that is just something good to notice. And again, always worth discussing with your local group leaders if you have any questions about this. So please don't be pushed away because you have heard some rumors about religion being super important part of this hobby. For example, I used to be a scout since age of 7, and we basically never had anything related to church. So yeah, you can focus on different things depending on your own commitments. All right, then next question. How much does it cost? This is of course important question. Is it an expensive or affordable hobby for kids and volunteering for adults? Well, we would say that it is quite reasonably priced hobby, definitely, compared to some others where you need a lot of gear, for example, or you need to pay annual fees. The annual membership fee for the Guides and Scouts of Finland is around 60 to 80 euros. It depends a little bit locally. And the payment includes the membership fee of the Guides and Scouts of Finland and the local Scout district. Some local groups may also collect a separate membership fee, which is also usually rather reasonable, so not expensive. And then, of course, some additional affordable fees will also occur, for example, for camps, weekend camps, trips, and hikes. And the costs for those is intended to cover the cost of the meals, basically. And these do depend on the local group, but here are some example prices. So for example, if a kid would be joining their group's weekend trip, a camping trip, for example, or a trip to a scout hut, it could cost something between 5 and 20 euros for the whole weekend. And then it includes food and everything. For a week-long camp, locally, it would be around 50 to 80 euros. And then a week-long hike, locally somewhere in Finland, that could cost somewhere between 100 and 150 euros. And international camps for a week long could be somewhere around 200 euros, depending, of course, on the cost of the travel as well. But usually the idea is to keep the costs pretty really reasonable. And also Scouts do a lot of fundraising, for example. So for international, when traveling is possible again, for international projects and camps, they will collect money, for example, by selling some things or cleaning another place or something. So yeah, definitely an affordable hobby compared to many others. But then, of course, the gear, what you need to join the camps, for example, also do add to the cost. But there is no need to buy expensive clothes or expensive camping gear because, for example, most of the things can be bought secondhand or borrowed or lended out. And the Scout's uniform basically includes, at minimum, it includes the Scout's neckerchief, so this thing that hangs around your neck. And these are used in weekly meetings and in all events, basically. Typical price for this is around 7 to 10 euros, so really reasonable. Then scout shirt that can be seen in this photo. These two girls are, oh, actually one of them is wearing a scout shirt. There are different ones for different age groups, and they are used in weekly meetings and on bigger events, for example. And they too can be purchased second-hand. The typical price for a new one would be between 15 and 50 euros, depending on the age group. Then the badges that you can also see on the photo in the arm of the other girl. These are milestones and signs of growing and developing in the path of guiding and scouting, donated by the organizations, by the local troops or the Scouts districts. And some may also be purchased for a really reasonable price, like a couple of euros. For example, from certain events or camps, they might sell additional ones that you do not need to use, but you can if you want to. And then camping gear, again, can be also borrowed, rented, or purchased secondhand. And most of the local troops, they have their own tents, for example, so individual members do not need to buy their or bring their own tents for the weekend camp, for example. So in this way, this is probably the cheapest way of learning how to camp responsibly as well. And usual gear that a child or adult would need. Obviously, some of the operations, the activities are also held in the city, so there you don't need much else than the scout neckerchief. But when you go camping, you might need, for example, a big backpack, a sleeping bag, a camping mattress, headlamp, torch, compass, knife, maybe sturdy and waterproof shoes, and waterproof clothing. If any of my fellow scouts and guides online have anything to add to this list, you can also type on the chat box. But this is basically all you need to get started. And all of these you can also borrow, as said. And then this question is for the adults, basically. So do I have to pay if I join as a volunteer? Yes, you do. All members of the Guides and Scouts in Finland pay their membership fee. If you are uncertain if this will be your thing, you can also try out for 3 times and then before you decide and commit, and then you make your payment and then you join officially. So also adults who act as volunteers and enable the hobby for kids and youth. You are also in a way by paying your membership fee, you are also supporting the hobby for the kids. But you also get a lot in return. So if you pay that around maximum 80 euros, you still get huge, amazing adventures, a lot of learning opportunities. You also get courses and support from your peers. And you also probably get a community of like-minded individuals who will help you out. And you get a network of people who might be able to help you with other things related to life, not just the volunteering and the hobby. And then oftentimes or occasionally people ask also, so what are the core principles? What is the guiding and scouting all about? It's difficult to explain the whole thing because it's such a versatile thing. But just to give a really brief grasp to you, you will learn all of this in more detail, step by step at your own pace if you do decide to join. So this is just a really brief intro. The ideals of a scout are to respect others, to love and protect the environment, to be reliable, to build friendship across boundaries, to feel one's responsibility and to take action, to develop oneself as a human being, and to search for truth in life. So super easy. Now these are involved in the operations, but you don't need to remember these by heart. It all comes naturally when you join the movement. Also, the Scout promise and motto may be familiar to some of you. The Scout promise is basically something that once a child or adult joins, they give the Scout promise, and then they become full members of the community, so to say. So the Scout promise would be, I promise to do my best to live for the good of my country and the world, to develop in my spiritual beliefs and worldview, and fulfill the ideals of this particular age group every day. And this, I believe, most of you probably have heard. The motto of a scout or guide is be prepared. So be prepared for everything. All right. On our previous session in the springtime, many people were curious and wanted to know how many times per month do the scouts do activities normally? How many times do they meet? Well, there are meetings, weekly meetings, camps, and other activities. Weekly meetings for kids and youth from age 7 to 22 is usually once a week. So the age 7 to 22 is basically where we focus, where most of the, where the activities are focused on. There will be planned activities for these people, kids in this age, and adults. So once a week. So if you would join as an adult and would like to lead a group, then you would probably have a meeting once a week as well. And then you would additionally have some meetings with the other leaders. We call the adults who run a group or do any other things, we call them leaders. You don't need to be a leader in your everyday life, but it is just a word that we use. So yeah, you might have some planning events and meetings with the other leaders every now and then. Weekend camps, trips, hikes, scouting competitions. For example, here in the photo, you can see a team taking part in a scouting competition. This definitely depends, and you can decide for yourself how many times you want to join, but typically it's at least once per season. And the seasons are fall season and spring season. And then in the summertime, usually the local troops do have their summer camps. And this does depend on your local troop, how often they organize things. Yeah, summer camps and hikes, usually once a year for each age group, or then combined for different age groups. Especially for adults as well, courses and training, different kind of training in different kind of topics will be available around the year. And more about what kinds of activities. Already some of it was covered in the previous slide, but to add to it, there are a lot of different activities. In the weekly meetings, they are usually held indoors or, well, in the current situation, also remotely through different kind of platforms, but still with the community spirit, with like-minded people and organized activities. But yeah, it could be indoors and outdoors, or one or the other. And usually there is learning happening in different skills through games and fun. So it's never too serious learning. So kids, even after going to school the full day, they will definitely have fun while joining this hobby after school as well. So some of the things that the activities include is considering the environment and other people, operating in a group as an individual and as a part of group member, and developing the ability to solve problems and also taking responsibility. And then the camps, trips, hikes, competitions, they test outdoor skills, for example, bushcraft, nature skills, orienteering, responsible camping, first aid, all of these are included. Cooking outdoors and all sorts of things. And all of this is done in a group, so you're basically never alone. And then the courses and trainings, there's a huge list of different kind of courses and trainings and that one can join. For example, some of the topics is leadership, social skills, survival skills, ecological awareness, and many others. And these have been asked if these things are part of guiding and scouting. So answer to all of these is yes. Hiking, camping, orienteering are part of guiding and scouting. Skiing, when there's snow, yes. Water sports can be, yeah, water sports it's supposed to be like rowboating, kayaking, canoeing, sailing, all sorts. Also handicrafts that can be done indoors, outdoors, puzzles and problem solving, negotiation skills, all sorts of competitions, physical exercises, and also mental exercises, and first aid, for example. And now you have heard of all these things that we do in this hobby, and you might start thinking, oh my God, do I have to have some sort of particular skills or certifications before I join the Scouts? Because they do so many different things. Well, lucky you don't need to have any particular skills in advance. So just come as you are. You don't need any preliminary skills or knowledge. All you need is curiosity and willingness to learn and adapt. And as said previously, it's a great way to developing your own skills, to teaching others, and becoming a part of a community. And all you need to know will be taught to you step by step in your own pace. And if not, then just ask around and it will be provided to you. So what about the right age? What is the right age for joining the Guides and Scouts? Here are the age groups. So basically, any age is the right age to join. Family Scouting, which is available in some parts, not everywhere. This is a newer addition, is intended for kids who are under the age of school, so 4 to 6 year old, and their family members or other adults. Then the actual activities are for kids from 7 to 22 kids and adults, basically. And then adults, we consider those who are over 23 years, and that's when you start becoming as a having a supportive role for the younger people. But yeah, definitely no maximum age, especially in smaller towns or in places where kids or young people, when they get a new studying place in another city, then they leave around age 20 maybe, and those local troops often dearly need new leaders because the leaders that they have been growing from a child are now moving up to a different city, for example, to study. This is quite a typical thing. So definitely always worth asking. Some local troops may already have enough young leaders. So if that is the case, if they tell you, well, we don't need you, then don't be put off by that. Ask from the next local troop and maybe they will need help. So this definitely depends. And some bigger cities, for example, there are so many members that they just cannot take any more people. And this is completely normal as well. It has nothing against you, so don't take it personally. Just stay resilient and ask from the next place. And then just really briefly about family scouting, because it has become quite popular. But indeed, it's good to note that there is only limited availability for family scouting at the moment. And they usually meet once a month, and the activity relies highly on volunteer adults. So it requires somebody to run the activities as well and people to be active in joining. And it's a great way for the children and parents to get the opportunity to engage in scouting-like activities and become more familiar with scouting before joining at the age of 7, for example. Now, what can adults do? If any of you online have any ideas, what could adults do when they join? You can type them in the chat box. In the meanwhile, I will just continue and tell you a couple of examples. There are many ways of joining, and as said, remember it is volunteering for adults. Some local troops do also have some groups only for adults that also do their own trips, for example, once a year or twice a year or something like this. So this is an option as well, but they are rare and adults are mostly needed to help out. But when you help out, you also get a lot. So a couple of examples, you could become a group leader with another leader, for example. You could also assist in events, camps or hikes. You do not need to necessarily commit to weekly meetings. You could also assist once a season, for example. Or you can share your knowledge in office work. Maybe you're really good at marketing, or maybe you're really good with accounting, or anything basically. Any knowledge you may have, you can share and you can help out. Or maybe you are really handy and you know how to renovate a cabin, for example. So you could help the local troop renovating their scout cabin. And in general, you can just share your skills with others and also learn from others and from the young people as well. And yeah, many other things you could do. So now, how could you or your child join? This is also a hot topic quite often. Now, if you are interested in, you might want to know, how do I find out information about the local troops and so on. So we will do a brief demo in a moment. We have this thing called Search for Troops at the website scouts.fi, join/search dash troops. I will now share that link in the link box, in the chat box as well, so you can try it out for yourself. Or the other option, if you find this challenging, then you can also search online using Google or such, and search with the words that I pasted also on the chat box. So partio, that means guiding and scouting. Then the second word, lippukunta, that means a local troop. And then you could add your local city, municipality, or neighborhood. So with those three words, you might be able to find from Google or other search engine the website or maybe social media account of your closest local troop. And then if you manage to find info, even though the info probably is in Finnish, you maybe will find a phone number or email. I would recommend phone number because you get faster answers. And then you can contact the local leaders and they can tell you what the situation is in that particular troop. Then when I change to the demo, I will also show, because occasionally people ask about Sea Scouts, since there are typical, or there are certain focus areas in some of the local troops. And scouting is one option where also sailing is included. Usually the Sea Scouts during the rest of the season outside of summer and fall, they do exactly the same activities as other scouts and guides. But during the sailing season, they also go sailing. And before I go into the demo, I will also point out that one other option of finding out about guiding and scouting in your local area is asking around in, for example, Facebook groups. Maybe you have a Facebook group for your neighborhood, or otherwise in social media. And if you want to search for any guiding and scouting related things, oops, sorry, I misspelled that. On social media, you can use the hashtag #PartioScout. It's the same as in the logo as well. So with this, you can find out different things. All right, I think we are ready for the demo. So I will end the slideshow for a little bit. Yes, and then I will share my screen. And we will go to the local search for troops. So this is the page which is called scouts.fi, which is our website in English. There is also a website in Finnish and Swedish as well, but now we will focus on this one. So for example, now you can find from Join the Adventure section, you can find search troops. And you end up on a page like this. Now I will point out that on the English language search engine here, everything is not perfect. It will give you an idea, but you will not necessarily find out everything, and there might still be some things that are in Finnish, even though the search engine here itself is in English. So I hope you are all understanding, and don't be bothered by that, and just try and look for something. And if you need some help, you can contact us, and I will also share the contact form for you at the end of this session. And then you can also ask in about 5 minutes. You can ask for help if you need to find a local group for yourself. So here we have a map where you can see that local troops are located all around Finland. You can find a local group by entering a postcode or location. Let's say we want to go to Vaasa, for example. So then we can see that there are some different options here on the map. You can see them. And then, okay, this one, maybe I live here somewhere close by, so I will just click on the little marker, and then I will find out name of this troop, and it also says join now. Well, here's also some information in English, in Finnish, sorry, and this one, for example, says that this is focused on bushcrafts and wilderness things. But don't be bothered by the fact. You can always use Google Translate as well in this part. But what I would recommend is, for example, clicking on the name, and then you will find out more information about that particular group. You should be able to find from the details the website of this particular group or troop, but occasionally they lack because not everybody has always put out everything correctly. And also here, for example, it says language Suomi, which means language Finnish. So it means that the operations the activities are run in Finnish, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you could not join when you are willing to learn Finnish and you want to learn. So then you can find, for example, here more information from this side. And if you already know that you want to join, you heard from somebody that you want to join, then you can also click on the Join Now button. And then here you have this form that you can fill in, and you can change the language to English and take it from there. And there you have information as well. And if you need help with that, then just reach out to our customer service, so to say. But if I would choose from here language, for example, English, this is again unfortunately in Finnish and we cannot change it that easily. So if you would look for that, you can see that there are not too many options, but you still find some. But as said, don't focus on finding only those who have put information here that they have operations in English if you are willing to learn the language. For example, here now you don't have the website, but you do have the name of the troop. So you can now use this and Google and find out more information. Anybody has any questions at this point? I think I have covered pretty much the most frequently asked questions and the little demonstration at this point. And we still have 15 minutes left. And this time is for you guys. We have people from different parts of Finland here as well who will be able to assist you with any particular questions you might have. I will now stop recording this session, so feel free to ask questions.